On July 16, 1945, the world ushered in the atomic age with the detonation of the first atomic bomb at the Trinity site in southern New Mexico. That bomb was the brainchild of J. Robert Oppenheimer, and it was constructed here in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Los Alamos is a city that owes its modern beginnings, for better or worse, to the creation of one of the deadliest devices in human history. Oppenheimer, a physics PhD and former teacher, spearheaded the effort and put the formerly all but non-existent town on the proverbial map. Almost 80 years hence, the town of 13,000 in the northern New Mexican desert continues to thrive, and Los Alamos National Labs, the largest employer in both the town and the county, accounts for almost 11,000 jobs in the immediate area. It's worth noting, though, that even with the modern amenities that we see here, that the history of this town and the history of how it came about in wartime is readily apparent if you know where to look. The history of this region of New Mexico stretches back almost 10,000 years, when Native Americans hunted in the area. The Spanish would follow in the 1400s, and the occasional homestead would even spring up in the region for the 100 years between the Civil War and World War II. However, as the Second World War raged in Europe, the allure of the region became even more enticing, this time not for homesteaders, but for the United States government, as a place to secretly build an atomic bomb. This plan, sometimes referred to as Project Y, would become much better known by its other name, the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project, led in secret by men including Leslie Groves, Hans Bethe, Richard Feynman, and J. Robert Oppenheimer, lasted from 1942 to 1946, culminating in 1945 with the testing of an atomic bomb at what would become known as the Trinity site just outside of Alamogordo, New Mexico on July 16th. This was followed 3 weeks later by what remains to this day the only use of atomic weapons in wartime, with the bombings of Hiroshima on the 6th of August and Nagasaki on the 9th, effectively putting an end to World War II and securing an Allied victory. So this building behind me is the J. Robert Oppenheimer house, which is the actual house that Oppenheimer lived in for a lot of the time that he was here in Los Alamos working on the Manhattan Project. Right here on site, in this house, right behind me. Here we are at the Manhattan Project National Historical Park. I haven't seen any mushroom clouds yet, but I'm keeping an eye out. We have a nice park behind us, so let's go and let's see what it's all about. So this here is the Manhattan Project National Historic Park. It's a pretty quaint little place. We have a pond behind us and some trees, and the park here was obviously built to commemorate the role that the Manhattan Project played not only for Los Alamos, but also for the state of New Mexico as a whole. They did a really good job at making it a nice green space and a place to be able to come and relax. You know, it's really interesting, despite the beginnings of Los Alamos, at least in the modern day, very much being within wartime and the development of the atom bomb and the Manhattan Project. You look around a lot of this town, and even with the number of museums that allude to its past history and the presence of the national labs that you have here, Los Alamos has really done a good job at evolving into what, by all accounts, is a pretty normal, run-of-the-mill northern New Mexican town. But one of the things you do have to remember about Los Alamos is generally just how affluent the entire area is. The town of Los Alamos and the county of Los Alamos are almost coterminous with one another, and largely due to the presence of the national lab, the median salary in Los Alamos County is somewhere around $115,000 a year, which is high not only for New Mexico, but also for the US as a whole. One of the other key things to remember about Los Alamos, both the city and the county, is that largely due to the presence of Los Alamos National Labs, that while the average of PhDs in the country on a county-by-county basis is somewhere around about 2 to 3%, Los Alamos completely blows that out of the water. In this county, almost 18% of the people that live here have a doctorate of some sort, which is absolutely crazy to think about. Nestled between rivers and mesas that dot the landscape of the desert Southwest, Los Alamos is worth a visit. A trip to understand the history of the area, take in the scenery of the region, and explore the county is definitely recommended as you pass through central and northern New Mexico.